What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Mr. Joe's Baseball Show. I'm coming at you with the last Mario Baseball tier list I have set up for right now. I'm sure I'll get to more later, but this is the last one I'm going to do at the moment. We got the pitching tier list. Before we get into this, I'm just going to give a quick rundown of what I think is going to come next. Since this is the last tier list I have planned at the moment, I'm sure others will come in the future. But going forward, I'm going to be actually playing some Mario Baseball. I'm sure everyone loves the game that's watching this. At least you'd love to see the game played. I'll probably do some fun challenges, maybe play some net play with other people, and yeah, we'll see how things go. We'll get more into that at another time. This tier list probably going to be relatively quick. I'm going to kind of skim through the bottom of it since there's not much to say about a lot of these characters as far as pitching goes, but once we get into like the higher tiers, we will give a little more discussion. So, starting off at the bottom, the Mario tier. If you don't know why it's called the Mario tier, check out Dinger City in the description below. You'll figure it out somehow. We've got basically all your power hitters except for DK. They can't curve their fastballs, which is pretty bad, and their curve on their regular pitches are relatively low. So there's really no reason. Plus, they can pretty much all play a different position much better. So not even worth trying. Bowser Jr., he might have a little bit of a better pitching stat, but I haven't really looked into him too much, but again, not really worth it. As far as these characters go, they are either bad characters that aren't even worth picking. However, if you really wanted to pitch with them, you can, technically. Mario and Luigi have higher stamina than other pitchers. They get tired after 8 runs/star pitches, while everyone else gets 7. So there is that. They're not necessarily bad at pitching, these characters, but you're much better off putting them in a different position in the field. I mean, obviously you're picking Toadette for her fielding, you're going to pick her for right field, you're picking DK for a lot of reasons, but he does play that Gold Glove shortstop, so really these characters are just better suited elsewhere. There's no reason to pitch with them. And then, like Paragoomba, if you're picking him, you don't want him at your pitcher position. So these are the characters that you will realistically see pitching in games, especially this top 7 and top 3 even. So let's just talk about them. I have them labeled as relievers because they're generally characters that you're not going to see until you've given up those 7 runs and you need to bring in a worse pitcher because you're getting your ass beat. So looking at the relievers, I think Toadsworth is the best out of all of them. Him and Noki, I think, have the same pitching stats, Green Noki specifically. They have decent curve. Their speed isn't too high, but their control is good enough combined with their speed to make for passable pitchers. And I think Paratroopa might actually also have the same. But then you look at Magikoopa, Green Magikoopa, or Yellow Magikoopa. Technically, Yellow Magikoopa is the best out of this tier, but Yellow Mag overall is the worst character, so you're not going to see that. So technically, if you use Yellow Mag, he goes here. But Green Mag, or Blue Mag, or Red Mag, they can all go here. Green is the best of that group at pitching, so I usually take Green Mag if I'm considering him as a backup pitcher. And then you've got Green Dry Bones. Again, they're all basically like middling speed and curve, so nothing to write home about by any means, but it's not a bad choice necessarily. You could definitely get away with using one of these guys as a pitcher. I just wouldn't really recommend being like, I'm going to rely on this character as a pitcher, especially when there are so many characters that you could probably take that are better at pitching. The only thing I could really consider is maybe your opponent scooped up all 3 of the top tier pitchers and you're not comfortable with any of these, or you don't want to have to deal with the downfalls of these characters, because all of these, as you can see, these are all the star hitters in the game who also coincidentally can pitch to a decent degree, so they are overall better characters. So it's not like bad to necessarily use them as pitchers, but you're going to want Madge at third base, you're going to want Noki in the outfield, you're going to want Paratroopa at a corner base. It's not where you want them. The only one that I usually would see starting a game out of this group is Toadsworth, because he doesn't really have a place on the field. So enough about them. There's not much to say other than that. The next group of pitchers, these are what I would consider your solid options, right? Like these pitchers are good. If you need to use them, by all means go for it. I personally don't use any of them because I just use the good ones, because that's how you win the game. But they're not the worst. I do think Peach and Daisy are worse than Waluigi and Goomba, while Peach being the worst because while she does have a high curve stat, one of the highest in the game, so she has the most control, her pitch speed is relatively quick. So with the speed, she's not really able to get as much use out of manipulating the ball because the ball reaches the plate too fast. While if you look at Daisy, while she has a little less curve on her pitch, she does throw it a little more slowly, like very slightly, but it's more slow. So while she has a lower curve, she's able to manipulate the ball a little more, and that's why I think that she kind of edges out Peach in this case, plus she's a better character overall. But again, as far as pitching goes, I do think she has the advantage here. Then you look at Waluigi. He is a weird case where we used to see Waluigi every single game as a pitcher. It was like, Waluigi and Boo, these are your guys. Now, Waluigi's pretty much fallen off, and I understand that. He probably is the one that will decay the most over time, but I do think he still has pitching potential. You can probably hear my cats sprinting around my apartment right now. But Waluigi, while his pitch is very slow, you have very high control, so there is, some value to that. Plus, his fastball is ridiculous. He has such a fast fastball that you can mix it up with the half charges and the full charges and the no charges, that you have a good amount of options with him. And something to mention with these three characters, they all have star pitches, which, if they're your captain, or even they don't have to be your captain, their star pitches can be used in very specific situations where you really need that last strike, maybe bases loaded, 2 outs, maybe the last pitch of the game, something like that. So that's always an option that you have. Going on to Goomba, this is one that a lot of people probably wouldn't expect to see here, because Goomba doesn't have a crazy stat spread as far as pitching goes. I'm actually going to link the stats document for all the pitcher stats and all that down below, so if you want to check it out, go for it. So Goomba on paper doesn't look that good, but he has something that a lot of these characters don't, and that is a weird release point. So basically, if you look at the release on Goomba's pitch, he does like a spin, and the ball just kind of comes out of somewhere that you can't really see. He doesn't have an arm, so you can't see him actually winding up for the throw, which is something that Waluigi really gives away. That's why I think he's trending down in the grand scheme of things. But really, I think the biggest thing is that when you look at Goomba, his spin into his slider, I like to call it, like your half-charged fastball, you can really mix up your releases and your timings, and it gives your opponent something to think about. You're not just throwing the same pitch over and over. I do think it's relatively hard to pitch successfully with Goomba, and overall he's not a great hitter, so there's not much reason to pick him. But if you're comfortable with pitching as him, and your opponent isn't comfortable hitting against him, he can really sneak some really low-scoring games. Like I've personally, the first couple times I went against Goomba, I maybe scored 1 run, 2 runs. Like he'll mess you up if you don't know what you're doing. So something to look out for Goomba is manipulating that release point and your half charges with your full charges and your full charge no fastball. Like there's a lot of different options you can do with this character. But that's all I got for this tier. Now we're gonna move on to the best of the best, the cream of the crop of pitchers. These guys, they do everything you need. Dixie and Diddy are very similar, with Diddy's stats being a little bit better. So I'm basically going to talk about Diddy and Boo, but just assume anything I say about Diddy Kong pretty much translates to Dixie unless I say otherwise. So when you look at Boo and Diddy, Diddy's pitch is a little slower with a little less control, while Boo's is faster with more control. So what this means, it's similar to the Peach and Daisy scenario. Diddy Kong can control his pitch location a lot more, while Boo is kind of like, he still has great control over his pitches, but you have a little less time to manipulate the ball. However, when it comes to Boo and Diddy Kong, their pitches are just far superior to Peach and Daisy because they have more control overall. So while you would think normally, well, if Boo has the highest curve stat, which he does, and his pitch is a little faster than Boo's, wouldn't that just make him like infinitely better than than Diddy Kong as a pitcher? And you'd think so. However, having the slower pitch actually gives Diddy a lot of time to kind of to manipulate the ball and really move it around. Really move it around the plate and the batter's box. You can paint the corners. So that, I think, maybe gives Diddy Kong the edge. Also, something to consider is that Diddy Kong is a right-handed pitcher by default, while Boo is lefty. Now, this is totally customizable. You can swap them at the beginning of each game. I haven't tried too much righty Boo, and the reason I think righties are better is because in this game, I believe that righty pitchers are better against lefty batters, and a majority of characters bat lefty, especially power hitters, because it lets you kind of paint the outside corner a little more, which is the best place to be putting the ball most of the time. Obviously, that's not like, oh, always throw it on the outside corner, but it's just, it's better to manipulate that than throwing inside pitches. So I would say Boo has the edge. I do think while his pitching is a little bit less controllable, his speed gives them much less time to react. So while with Diddy Kong, well, maybe I can give you more mix-ups, you have a little more time to react to my pitch, and that kind of, I think, might give Boo the edge here. Now, Dixie Kong basically has everything Diddy has, but a little bit worse, so she's definitely, like, worse than Diddy and Boo, while I think these two are neck and neck. And there is one more thing to consider for Diddy Kong. He does have the banana ball star pitch. So while Boo does have a star pitch, it's not very deceptive. He gets like super control over it, so it's not bad. But Diddy Kong throws his banana ball, which is very, very difficult to hit. And you can't even tell if it's going to land for a strike or a ball. So it's just that one thing. Plus, you do see Diddy Kong as a captain fairly often. Maybe not all the time, but enough. I think that gives Diddy Kong a bit of an edge that I wouldn't be mad considering him better than Boo. But I do think, as things lie right now, plus with the potential of trying out some righty Boo pitcher, I do think that Diddy Kong is a little bit worse. And I mean, this was a pretty quick one, but there's not too much to say about pitching. You really have like your elite pitchers, while a lot of the cast is just not viable as a pitcher. So if you really want to pitch with one of these characters and then no reasons to use tier, by all means do it. It's just you're kind of wasting either their potential or a slot on your team, while there are at least these 12 characters up here. Can't do math all of a sudden. These 12 characters that are just like far and away better at pitching. Like, I think the difference between this tier, like relievers, and the no reason tier is pretty significant. Maybe King Boo is the only one that you can kind of argue, but like the top tier pitchers, Diddy and Boo especially, just blow everyone out of the water. This is a big gap between these two, I think, and it's a huge gap between here and here. Like, this is not even comparable. Boo, Diddy, Dixie, they just blow everyone out of the water. So yeah, if you're picking a character and you're trying to win, I would prioritize Boo as a character in your draft because he's a better hitter. He's one of the best hitters in the game. But if they take Boo, you could probably sneak a Diddy Kong later in your draft, and that'll give you the option to have a really strong pitcher that you got for a lower value overall. So yeah, that's all I got for right now. Just to touch up on what I was saying earlier, I am looking to do some more Mario Baseball content. I'm thinking of some challenges maybe I could do against the CPUs, maybe play some story mode, not sure about that one. Maybe like throw a perfect game against the CPU, 100 runs against the CPU. I'll probably play some net play. I've been thinking of doing some gameplay analysis, like pull up a really good game for maybe Dinger City or a net play tournament, most likely Dinger City since I know everyone there pretty well. And I'll watch the video back, kind of pause through it, like review different choices, things like that. Just give like an analysis of the game. I think I have a pretty good eye for it. And if that's something you guys would be interested in seeing, let me know down below. Thank you for subscribing and liking this video. If you haven't already, please do that. It helps me a ton, and I'm really trying to build this channel because I'm having a lot of fun doing it so far, and I'd love to continue to do it. I don't think there's enough Mario Baseball content out there, and I'd love to make more of it. I think it's a great thing. So, thank you for watching. I'll be back probably next week with another Mario Baseball video. Let me know what you want to see. And I've been Mr. Joe. Have a wonderful day.